Hello, welcome to this example of XPath. Click on your favorite browser. So in the favorite browser, let's go to our site. Let's say www.google.com. We'll use this as an example to identify an object. In this case, we will be using this text box and we'll try to identify it uniquely. And we will try to identify this Google search button uniquely. These are the two things. Let's start with the text box to see the concept of XPath, how to find. To do so, there are two ways. One, go to the text box for an object, whichever object in question. Go to that and right click on your mouse. And then you have in a Chrome a menu item called Inspect. When you click on Inspect, it will show the DOM. In the DOM, you will have all the elements. You can see the elements. So which is, if you select on highlight the element, that particular element will get selected. So if you highlight here, it is entire thing. So it is highlighted entire page. Then you keep coming, respective things get highlighted, and then you can see which individual items which is in focus and which you are targeting to perform some action on. So in our case, we want to identify this element, which is text box. Right click and then say inspect, and you are here in this. This is one way of doing it. Let me close this and then try again. This is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it. So in the browser, you see this three dots. Click this three dots and you should see a menu. In the menu, you should have our more tools menu. The more tools menu, you have developer tools, and click on the developer tools, and you can see the same screen which you have seen it to inspect. So this is how you go to a developer tool. So in the developer tools, elements is what you see is a collection of HTML tags or a DOM, which is what we are going to query. And the XPath is a concept of querying or trying to identify an element uniquely. To perform that or to perform the query, in the element section of the developer tools, press Ctrl F. So you should find a find menu, and here we can able to implement our XPath. So based on XPath syntax, it should start with the node, so which is // When you say enter, it will go to the top of the document. That's where the node. And if you see here, it is 36. So you have 36 elements here in this document, HTML document. So let's refine our search. We want to refine this as a search text box. That is input. Let's say input and say enter. So now you see there are a lot of inputs, 17 input boxes. If you see, there are 17 input boxes here, and then there are so many of them. So out of so many of them, we need to identify our property. For example, in this case, as per the syntax, say square bracket and say @ and you could use any of the properties. And in this case, I'll use name property. I'll say name equal to single quotes Q, which is what you see here, name. And if you select it, you can able to see the name and you can able to close it. When you do that in this section, if you notice here, you only have one of one, means this object which you have and the value which you have here is only one, means the text box which you see here and the text and the XPath towards the text box, and it is only one element. So this is the three aspects by which I can uniquely identify. There is no other element in the page which is equal to the property which you have. So now that we have copied this, let's copy this so that we can use it in our TagUI implementation. So let's go and let's open a Notepad++ instance. Let's copy paste our locator. You can say for our references, text box, and let's minimize this for time being. Let's go back and then let's try to identify the search button and search for it. Let's wipe this out. In this particular example, we'll see how do you resolve the conflict. In our previous example, we had only one object, which is text box. It was pretty easy to identify it. So when you have more than one object, how do I filter it and how do I find it? So let's start all over again. So we are going to go for a main location, which is / this. So in this particular case, it's again input. I think more than input, I think this is, let's search the property of it. You can take it and then you can say search. Basically, it's an input, yes. So let's say input. and enter. So when you enter it, you have 17 input boxes available or input tags in the browser page or the document which is open. Let's refine our properties more, and I say @ and we want to search for this button. So let's say and click on this, so it shows up the properties. So in here, let's say I'll use the same property called name. I say name equal to single quotes BT K capital, close it. So when you do that, you see there are two buttons in it. This is one, and you say focus, it will focus whichever button it is. And then you go to two, and you can just say right click and say focus. Two tags. So we need to uniquely identify. So in this case, if you really see 1 and 2, pretty much all the properties are same. You have class, which is pretty much class is same. You have value is same. You have a aerial label, area label, which is also Google search. Name are both same, right? Role button is same, and index is also same, and type is submit. I guess the only difference value is the data -vd, which is a little different or unique. To differentiate it, we can use another property which is called and. So we're going to use and then if you want to have more than one property, use an attribute name, say data -ved equal to hyphen, this is our button, let's select it, paste it over here. So this is now a unique, and then I have only one object of this. We have this button, and this is the button in question. So the concept here is we can use more than one attribute, and by using and or logical operators to combine or two expressions together to identify your element uniquely. In some pages and some objects, as the web pages are dynamic and each page is documented or each document is published in a different way, in some circumstances where you don't find a single property to uniquely identify it, you could use multiple properties to make the object uniquely identify. Now there is one more concept. For that, let's take another example. Right? For example, we'll go to our favorite site, which is Investopedia. Let's say we would like to or locate or identify the search button, which you see it on the screen. So to do so, let's go right click and say inspect. So our favorite developer tools opens. So in this developer tools, the object is already highlighted. So Google Chrome developer tools itself provide a capability to select an absolute as well as relative path. Let's select this element's absolute path, which is right click on the element. In the element, you should be seeing a menu or extended menu called copy. In the copy, there are a lot of options here. So you have two options which you see here, copy XPath and copy full path. So copy full path is absolute path. For example, in the search button or search icon, if you say this is how you navigate. So if I need to go to this particular object, if I need to go to this object, it gives you a full path of this search box. But there's another way you can able to identify it. You can go here in the same thing, right click on it, go to copy menu, you have a copy XPath. So when you do a copy XPath, this is full path, and we did a XPath, copy XPath. And if you see here, it writes in the same format, the format which we have written above. So which is to the syntax which we have written. It is called as a relative path. It uses regular expressions. In advanced concept of XPath, we can see that. How do you use these regular expressions? But to make our object identification easy, you could use this technique. You can go to here, copy, and you have XPath and you have full path. Any of this concept can be used to copy XPath. So by using these two techniques, you can able to identify the object. There are much more options available within XPath, like text, contains, dynamic value identification techniques. We can see them in details in our detailed or advanced section. So at this particular point, through this XPath technique, you can able to identify an object in your web page uniquely and could be used in your TagUI identifiers to perform action on top of it, click, type, any of those actions. So this concludes our introduction to XPath. We'll see an XPath implementation example using TagUI. Thanks for watching. See you in another one.